Now, as far as my dream goes, I would love to purchase like 5 to 10 acres, build an A-frame home, have a huge garden that I can grow a year's worth supply of all different things. That's kind of my goal when it comes to this garden, is to see how much I can push in such a small space, especially when it comes to those quantities of canning. So I think eventually, once I am able to eventually maybe purchase property or buy a home on property, I just really want an A-frame. I mean, I'm obsessed with A-frames. I love them. If I had a choice to live in a home for the rest of my life, it would be A-frame. So that's kind of the gist of my dream. I would love to do that. I would love to have 5 to 10 acres, but I don't know if that will be doable. I really hope it is. I really want an A-frame house, but again, that's like even more out there. That's like a dream house scenario, which I don't know if that would happen in 5 years, but if it were to happen in 5 years, that'd be really cool.
So my dream property is like 10 acres. I really want a 5 to 10 acre property. Ideally, I want an A-frame home.
One thing for me is, if I can make my dreams a reality, and I showed that entire process from day one, like I've used this backyard to my fullest, and if one day I get some acreage and I have the house of my dreams, I'm able to homestead and I'm able to do all this, it'd be really cool to look back one day at all these videos and show myself that I literally did it. Who's gonna tell her her biggest dream became a reality? You guys, I own an A-frame on 5 acres. What? Some days I honestly can't believe that this actually happened. And this morning, I just wanted to catch up and chat. I know you guys really want a property tour and to see the A-frame, and I promise you that is coming. But I did not want to just skim over the fact that this is probably one of the biggest deals I have ever experienced. I have never actually had like a full-on dream come true, and I really want to tell the story of how all of this came to be before I just jump into the property tour. I also feel like we just have a lot to catch up on. This has been my biggest break away from YouTube, I want to say, in 6, maybe 6.5, 7 years. It's been a while. I couldn't tell you the last time I've took 5 to 6 weeks off of YouTube, and I have honestly missed you guys so much. This has been one of the biggest secrets I have ever held. So I want to just sit down and talk with you guys this morning. I promise property tour is coming next week and we will dive into all things A-frame, but I really just wanted to tell you guys this story because if you're a dreamer dreaming a really big dream, I just want to show you guys that it actually can come true, and it's one of the craziest experiences I think I will ever experience in my entire life. You might be wondering why I wanted an A-frame house so much, and it was something I have said for years now. And this story goes all the way back to when me and my husband eloped. We stayed in Colorado, and when we booked an Airbnb, we stayed at an A-frame for 5 days. My husband always thought A-frames were cool. He grew up around an area of town that had some A-frames. I really wasn't exposed to A-frames until a little bit later in life. At this point, I thought they were really cool, but I've never stayed in one. So once I stayed in an A-frame, I knew that that is what I truly wanted. I said over the years I would settle for like a really cool mid-century modern house, but I really, really, really wanted an A-frame just because they are so unique and so cool. And I just wanted to live that experience every single day. So years back, I lost my job doing wine sales, and that is when I started to pursue social media full time. And during this time, I was making zero money when this house actually popped up on the market. We knew at that time there was probably no way we could afford it or anything like that, but since it was a dream, we did drive by it. We never looked at the property, but we did drive by it, and pretty much from that moment on, I have mentioned this house in particular multiple times a year, every single year, saying I really wish we could have figured out a way to make it happen, because I knew that this property existed. I knew this A-frame on 5 acres existed. So I knew I wasn't dreaming the world's craziest dream, but it wasn't in the cards for us at that time when this property did pop up. And it was so discouraging because, like I said, I lost my job. I was making no money. I was really betting on myself at that point. I really didn't have a following either. And it was just one of those things where you just see that everything is against you in that moment. But I really just wanted to keep that dream in the back of my mind as I continued on the path that I was currently on. So years later, once I actually was starting to make money and we were in a better position to potentially buy a house, there was another A-frame that popped up. This A-frame was on a 1 acre lot, which still seemed really big compared to the lot that we had. The lot that you guys know was a total of 7,000 square feet and the backyard was only 2,000 square feet. So an acre still felt really, really big to me. And the way that the acreage was set up with the house was on the front of the property and you pretty much had a whole acre to the backyard of that property. So I still felt like I could do everything I wanted to do. It gave me so much more space and opportunity, and we actually put in an offer on that house and it was accepted. I will say though that everything when it came to this house just wasn't everything we truly wanted. Even though it was an A-frame and it was an acre, we still wanted a little bit more land. My husband always said 2 to 3. I was always pushing for 5 to 10. But also the A-frame in itself, it looked like an A on the outside like this one did. But if you have been in A-frames or if you've looked at A-frames before, you may know a lot of them don't truly look like an A on the inside. This one does. The one thing with this other A-frame was the interior didn't look like an A. And me and my husband have always said we really truly loved that peak where it looked like an A. You see everything exposed and it's really, really pretty. But we were willing to settle. This was one of the few A-frames that popped up on land. I have found other ones throughout where they weren't on land. So I was like, okay, well, maybe this is our opportunity. And our offer was accepted, but throughout the process of going back and forth with the sellers, we ended up pulling our offer. That was so crushing because it was like I saw my dream happen twice and it was pulled out against me. So for the next few years, I just continued to keep this dream on the back of my heart as I really tried to maximize the other lot that you guys know and love. I really just tried to put everything I knew into that as much as I could just to really teach myself everything I wanted to learn. And if I was meant to be there, I was meant to be there. And if I wasn't, something would end up popping up. And I will say at the beginning of this year was when my mindset truly switched. Even though I was constantly pulling up Realtor and Zillow, I really just was like, you know what, if this never becomes a reality, then I'm 1000% content. If I'm supposed to be here stewarding this land and giving it all I got, I will do that. So you guys saw I ended up adding more garden beds in a few spaces that I really wasn't maximizing to the fullest. And it was 1000% at the point where I really couldn't add anything else to the backyard. But I was ready and I had everything in place. I had all the plans. And as you guys know, this was one of the worst years I have had with the garden. Everything was just against me. I had problem after problem, starting with herbicide drift. It was a really cool and wet season where everything was truly 5 to 6 weeks behind to where it really is almost every other year. But next thing I knew, this house somehow popped back up on the market and we were actually in a position to make it happen this time. So we viewed the house, we put an offer in, our offer was accepted, and next thing you know, we own an A-frame on 5 acres. The timing of all this honestly was just the craziest experience of my life, because if all of this would have came into fruition years ago, I would have not been ready at all. I was not maximizing the space. I truly didn't know the ins and outs fully of gardening, and I have learned just so much over the years. And I feel like now at this point, now that all of this came to be, I really know what I want to do with this 5 acres. And it is just so cool to see the timing of it all play out. Throughout the years, I would openly discuss how much I wanted an A-frame on 5 acres, whether that be to you guys here on YouTube or with friends and family. And I will say a lot of people were supportive, but I knew when I was talking to people, the people who thought I was absolutely delusional, because this is totally a needle in a haystack. To have 5 acres of land is pretty rare. It's not the rarest thing in the Midwest, but it's still pretty rare. But to find an A-frame on 5 acres truly is a needle in a haystack. So when I would openly talk about how I really wanted an A-frame on 5 acres and I was not going to settle for anything less, even though I did say I would settle for a really cool mid-century modern house, people looked at me like I was absolutely delusional. I did have a handful of really supportive people through the years, but I understand the delusion people thought I had. But I knew that this was just placed in my heart for a reason. And it is so cool that I actually just never gave up. I will say that this was a challenge. I had years where I was making absolutely no money. I didn't have a following. And it was very discouraging because everything I wanted took a very long time to end up coming to be. And I will say, I honestly am just glad it worked out the way it did, because my appreciation for this happening is just insane. I'm going to get really emotional because I honestly did not know if this would actually happen. I have had so many big dreams through the years. I am a big dreamer, and so many of them would get close or something would happen and it would be stripped away, and it's literally insane. My husband and I have worked so hard for this to actually become a reality, and it is one of the coolest things. And it's just so unique that we got to do it together. So I'm so excited to share this next chapter with all of you guys, especially from the beginning. I didn't start my gardening journey with you guys from the beginning. I really started it on YouTube a few years after it started. But I am actually able to show you guys everything I do on this property from the very beginning. And honestly, it's a pretty blank slate. There really is so much room I can do stuff with, and there isn't much that was here or established. So we really have a blank slate. I can officially say I'm a homesteader instead of a backyard homesteader. So many people were like, "You're not a homesteader." And I was like, whatever. Backyard homesteading is 100% still a ton of work. This is definitely going to be so much more work, and I'm so excited to hit the ground running on a handful of our plans. I will say the plans are probably going to continue to change just like they did at the old property. It took me 8 years to get that garden to be what it is, and I'm sure throughout the years things will completely change throughout, but I'm so excited about the plans we currently have for this space. But with that being said, you guys, the property tour is going to be here next week, and I'm going to take you guys around, show you guys everything, explain some of my plans I have for this space. I will go ahead and say, you guys, I don't have a limit on animals at this property. I initially thought I was going to have limits. I don't have any limits. So I can officially get more chickens. I can get the ducks I wanted. Maybe eventually, I don't think this will happen quite yet, but alpaca and sheep. I don't know if you guys know, but part of this whole goal of mine was if I were to ever get land, I really wanted to own alpaca or sheep so I could learn how to shear and spin their wool and crochet or knit something with it. And that is one reason I actually taught myself how to crochet and knit over the last 3 years, is because I had this goal to where if I ever had property and I could have animals where I could use their fiber and stuff like that, I thought that would be just like such a unique, cool, full circle experience that I really think would be a really cool goal to have. So I'm gonna hold on to that. I honestly don't think we'll get any type of big animal for at least a few years. I don't know, who's to say? I thought that this wouldn't happen in a matter of 5 years. I think that one clip I showed at the very beginning was just 3 years ago. And it's so crazy the things that can happen in a short time period. So if you are a big dreamer, dreaming a big dream, and you don't think it will ever happen, I hope this just shows you it truly can. And I hope it inspires you to keep going. Thank you guys so much for all of your support. Without you, this would not have been a reality. And thank you again for all of your patience over the last few weeks as I've been dealing with one of the craziest transitions of my entire life. So thank you guys so much. I will see you guys all next week for the property tour. Bye.